Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and if you're watching this guide video, we're going to be going over the last part of your proposal outline, and that is the conclusion. More specifically, understanding the focus of the conclusion within the proposal outline and how to complete the 3 sections of the conclusion for the next task. In the next task, you're going to be looking to take a screenshot of your final conclusion and all 3 parts so we can see your progress within the outline. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the focus of our conclusion is and how to complete each of the 3 sections. When looking at your conclusion here, you'll notice at the very top the focus. What decisions were made throughout the design cycle that led to this being the optimal design solution? So notice we're looking at what decisions were made throughout this entire project. So decisions being not only the choices you made for how the pod was built, but the decisions behind them, the scientific decisions behind them, the weighing of the criteria, amongst many others. This is where, if we're looking back at our 309 activity, Nisha refers to this idea of stepping into your mind to understand your thought process. This is where that begins. So there are 3 parts to our conclusion: prioritizing the criteria, pod design trade-offs, and then our closing statement. Each one has a question you'll see here, and we'll answer that question here in the blue box. Some of them will even have resources for you to use. So let's take a look at the first one: prioritizing the criteria. Explain which of the 3 criteria were the most and least important on minimizing when creating the optimal design, and why. That's the big part there, and why. This is where you're going to describe the prioritizing of your 3 criteria. So what was first, what was second, what was third, okay, when building your overall pod design, and most importantly, okay, obviously which was the most and least important, but why? Why did you prioritize the first one the way you did, the second the one that you did, and the third one? What about that prioritization is important in your mind when it comes to helping our natural disaster victims? Why is that order important when picking the materials you're using, amongst many others? So the why, really explain the why. Don't just tell me the order, explain why they're in that order, okay? This is where you really get to show Nisha, or let Nisha see behind the curtain of your thinking. The next section, pod design trade-offs. Explain the specific trade-offs that were made when building your optimal design that led to the desired criteria and drop results. So the trade-offs that were made to create the optimal design were, this is where you tell me what were the trade-offs when building your optimal design. When we say building, we mean the materials that you used. So for example, if we're looking at the building details here, what trade-offs did you make with your shell, and what were you trying to get out of it? Did you trade off a certain type of material for cost? Did you use a specific type of shell in order to have better shell conditions at the end? What trade-offs did you make for your add-ons, top or bottom, again, to help you get the required outcomes for your criteria? What did you do in terms of packing peanuts, paper pads, metal foam, feather, and airbags? That was a trade-off. Did you have to go higher on the airbags and lower on the feathers for some reason? What was that reason? What did that trade-off get you in terms of our criteria? Did it help improve cargo damage? Did it have to make the cargo damage worse? Again, give Nisha Carr insight into the trade-offs. Don't just say we traded off one criteria for the other. That's what the prioritizing was for. This tells her the building side of it. Why did you go with a smaller parachute versus a larger parachute? Why did you go with 10% metal foam pads rather than 20%? What were those trade-offs? Okay. And then finally, the more challenging side of our conclusion. This is where you're going to have to be really creative for your conclusion, your closing statement. This is a statement. It can be a couple sentences, one sentence, depending on what you want to really focus on, but create a final statement that shows your work can be trusted as a mechanical engineer and that your design is in the best interest of the people it is trying to help. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you make one final push. You make one final statement, something that is going to not just hook Nisha and the IDAC's attention, but make you stand out as the writer. Make you stand out with your final words that helps them trust you as a mechanical engineer. Show them that you're an expert. Show them that you care about the people we're trying to help, and that what decisions you made were in their best interest all along. Okay, this is where you really get to connect with the heart of why we're doing this drop pod project in the first place. Okay, feel free to use any of the resources to help you think about what's the best way to end your paper. Remember, this will be the last thing that Nisha and the IDAC reads. So if the summary at the beginning, if this was your first impression, if this was what Nisha Carr and the IDC first read when getting into your proposal, this is the last thing. This is the final taste you're going to leave in their mouth for what your overall proposal is all about. So take a second. Do you understand what the focus of the conclusion is? And do you understand what each of the 3 sections is all about for this very next task? Please be honest with your survey. If you have questions, reach out. Otherwise, good luck.